So in this segment, we're going to be talking about this gentleman here, David Collins, claiming the UK isn't breaking international law on the Northern Ireland Protocol if we breach it. And boy, is this a doozy. So he goes, endless repetition of the claim the UK's plan to abrogate the Northern Ireland Protocol breaches international law, as if the UK were some kind of rogue state. Well, let me tell you, Chief, if you're a country that breaches international law, you kinda are a rogue state. Article 16 of the protocol, he talks about serious economic, societal harms, blah, blah, blah. We've gone through all of that before. This is what the government is now seeking to do via legislation. Now, if it's the case that we could use Article 16 to alleviate these issues, as you claim, why don't we just do that then? Why are we going through the legislative route? Surely we trigger Article 16, we go through the joint committees, blah, 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 and it gets sorted. You know, if it goes to court, we win because we're the ones in the right, according to you. It doesn't make sense to go down this route, unless, of course, you're wrong. The standards for invoking these provisions are ones of seriousness and appropriateness. These concepts are not unique in international law. The WTO has agreements around safeguards. Safeguards are designed to cushion severe shocks resulting from free trade agreements and widely viewed as a necessity. I don't know the specifics of which agreements do have safeguards, but I'm assuming something like the EU-Canada deal could have safeguards around things like cheese, where there'd be quotas until a certain period of time. Deals like that where there's major changes to how what a country imports and exports. There is no question that the developments that have occurred since the protocol was signed are serious. A near total collapse of trade between GB and Northern Ireland as a consequence of... It's not a consequence of the EU's egregious customs checks on goods. The UK knew about this because of the impact assessment reports we had. We knew this was going to happen. It's not a new thing or something that's completely unique. You put a trade barrier in the way, what do you think is going to happen? And if you want to see more evidence of that, look at the trade drop-off between GB and the rest of the EU, for example. Look at how much Great Britain's exports have fallen compared to the global trends. You know, something I've covered, I think a few weeks or months ago, that the UK's trade has fallen off. Exports have fallen off dramatically because of Brexit. And he goes, so ensuring the implications for the integrity of the Union as well as the UK's welfare are indeed a cause for concern. But again, the UK, we're not super reliant on Northern Ireland's economy. Northern Ireland's economy isn't that great. The only thing that makes it an outlier in some cases it is because of the protocol. It's helping them when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to exports. The EU's unreasonableness with the respective checks of the goods is tantamount to a blockade in the RC is simply not true. There are less checks in the RC than there are for goods going from GB to France, for example. They talk about bad faith implementation, again, rubbish. Something close to 1/5 of all documentary checks conducted by EU customs relate to the Irish border. That's not actually true. And again, this person hasn't verified anything. They've not given any evidence as to their claims. Now, I'm about to hit you with something. This is from fact-checked NI. Do 20% of EU customs checks take place in the REC? Claim, that's the claim. Rating unsubstantiated. There's no case for this. There's no evidence. This is a figure someone's pulled out of nowhere, right? Because they've misread something, and then other people kept citing it without giving the actual source of the information. You notice there's no source on this one. If there was, he would have put this in. It's hard to resist the conclusion that the morass of paperwork was purposely inflicted upon the UK. Again, it's not true, because if the EU are implementing the protocol wrong, even though it's the UK checking the goods, if the EU's ask for certain amount of checks, if it's wrong, we can go to court over this or arbitration. We're not doing that. We're not going through that route. Why is that? It's because we know we're going to lose. Truss has explained that the UK's response would involve simplified customs checks on the RSC, comprising of a green lane for goods staying in Northern Ireland. We're going to be talking about the EU's October proposals in another video, but essentially the EU are offering a kind of express lane dependent on data. You know, they talk about this being linked to a trusted trader scheme. We could have had a trusted trader scheme were it not for Lord Frost and the gang, and a red lane for checks on goods moving into Ireland and the EU single market. But the problem with this is it's not about checking goods that are going to Ireland, it's checking goods that are at risk of going to Ireland. So you know that if there's a case that these goods leak into the EU single market, you know, it's not going to be a major deal. It's not some hormone beef or something toxic, for example, that the UK are going to allow through deregulation. This proposal is not a reckless ripping up of the protocol, as the BBC would have you believe, but it is though, because you are ripping up aspects of the protocol. It is Attorney General Suella Braverman, her opinion that this is lawful, but she won't publish her legal advice. Why is that? Article 16 goes on to state that the party against which safeguard measures are to be imposed to rectify harms, they can take proportionate rebalancing measures, which must be strictly necessary. This does not authorise a trade war. But again, what we're doing is not triggering Article 16. Like, bro, like, you can't not use Article 16 and then say, well, Article 16 that says this. You don't understand what Article 16 does, for a start. If you did, you would know that it doesn't let you take the legislative route for a start. You haven't read it properly. I know that for sure, because I have. I've gone through it on video with people. Honestly, because we're not triggering Article 16, how can you then say Article 16 only allows proportionate rebalancing when that's not the route we're taking? And then saying, oh, this means that the EU can't go for a trade war with us. Absolutely can, because we're not using Article 16 at all, especially not in the way it's envisioned. Given the minuscule volume of trade which may be affected, any corresponding tariffs against the UK should be minor. Again, that's not true. And also, even if they do minor tariffs, they can target specific constituencies. If, for example, Dominic Raab lives in a constituency that's known for farming turnips, for example, obvious joke there, the EU can put tariffs on turnips and they can really impact him. Not to mention the self-destructive, given the EU's trade surplus in goods with the UK. Now, we know the UK aren't going to put tariffs on EU goods. We're not even checking EU goods. So the idea that this is going to affect the EU's exports is simply nonsense. We're not going to put tariffs on EU goods in a trade war because we're not going for physical checks as is. Rees-Mogg said a few weeks ago or last month that if we did that, if we put physical checks in place, small exports of cheese from the EU would go up by 70%. So how much would tariffs increase that by? Another 30% potentially? The solution of a light touch approach to the GB-NI border is not going to happen. The October proposals, are far better than what people are making. Could make something good here. You're not going to get rid of checks in the Irish Sea. You're not going to get a green lane, but you can get an express lane, something that's far quicker than the current system as is. This was precisely the kind of arrangement that was envisioned by the protocol. It's not true though, because if that was the case, the impact assessment reports would say otherwise. And that's why the UK signed up to the treaty, blah, blah, blah. These guys are just incredibly frustrating. And this is a professor of international law at, City of University in London. This is a professor saying this nonsense. That genuinely, it's painful, isn't it? It's painful when a so-called professor can get some of this stuff wrong. When he says, the UK can use Article 16, then he talks about the legislative route, which has nothing to do with Article 16, and then comes back in the end to say, well, Article 16 says this, therefore the EU can't do much. It's just madness, honestly. I've sighed about 3 times there. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. The guy's made unsubstantiated claims, right? And I wonder if a university student submitted an essay without any kind of footnotes or sources, what kind of grade would he give it? Because I would give it a fail. And I'm not even a professor. I'm not even a teacher. But anyways, Prof, you get a fail for this one. You don't even get a 2-2. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.